everyone, welcome back to Believers Science Academy Bengaluru. This is the Daily News Analysis. Today we'll discuss important articles from the Hindu which will be important for your prelims, mains as well as interview. So the first article for 3rd November 2025. It's already November, so we have only 6 plus 2 more months for the prelims. So use your time very carefully. Manage your schedule. Make sure you have a proper timetable that by the time prelims comes around in the month of May, you are all ready for the prelims. Okay, fine. Let us start today's news analysis. So the first article is from the Hindu, which is an editorial which talks about engage the Taliban, don't recognize them. So it is talking about India and Afghanistan relations and also the dilemma between India recognizing the Taliban, which is essentially a non-democratic government, and importance of Afghanistan for India. Okay, so the editorial argues that India should engage with Taliban but stop short of recognizing them. Meaning we should engage with Taliban, we should have relations with Taliban, but we should not recognize them. That is, while the changing Afghanistan-Pakistan dynamic offers India new opportunities, formal recognition of the Taliban would be very risky given their unchanged ideology, repression, and the terrorist linkages. Okay, as we discussed recently about Afghanistan and Pakistan relations. If you want to learn more about Afghanistan and Pakistan relations, there is already a current issue of the day which is already been done on this particular topic. So recently there is a kind of rift between Pakistan and Afghanistan relations. If you see the graph of relations, it is on the downturn. Why? Because Pakistan focused mainly on immigrants from Afghanistan and they were sent unruly by the Pakistani government back to Afghanistan, which were not taken in good manner by Afghanistan. As a result, there were border skirmishes. Pakistan bombed Afghanistan and Afghanistan replied with the bombs again, and there is a border issue happening between Afghanistan and Pakistan. And also recently Afghanistan, our Taliban External Affairs Minister visited India, where he discussed about the importance of India for Afghanistan and also discussed about Pakistan's role or diminishing role in Afghanistan. So it brings an opportunity for India that an enemy's enemy is a friend. Okay, so that is what is happening in India. We should go for maintaining the relations with Taliban, but we should not officially recognize them. Why? Because the ideology of Taliban is same as it is before the USA took over Afghanistan, before the democratic government of Afghanistan, and now the ideology or the values they stand for are same, linked to terrorism, repression, and middle age or medieval Islamic rules. So what are they arguing here? They are arguing for India, Pakistan, and Taliban triangle. That is, the Taliban wants Pakistan's clients, important to note here, not the partners but clients, are now in power and in conflict with Islamabad over border disputes. As Pakistan Taliban ties worsen, India might be tempted to treat the Taliban as a counterweight to Pakistan, especially after the Taliban Finance Minister Amir Khan Muttaqi's visit to New Delhi. See, that is what I explained to you. Because of the recent skirmishes, the rift between the both countries is on all-time high, and India should capitalize on this issue. Obviously, India should capitalize because in the international relations, national interest becomes paramount. You have to be a real politic. You should not be idealist because idealism leads you nowhere in the international relations. So, considering the real politic ideology, considering the pragmatic ideology, and considering the national interest of India, India moving towards Afghanistan is the right move. But despite that, we should focus on the ideology that Taliban stands for. India's objectives in Afghanistan. India's Afghanistan policy rests on the three aims. Majorly, there are three aims that India and Afghanistan relations rely on. First is safeguarding the $3 billion new investments made since 2001. What happened in 2001? in 2001 there was a shift in Afghanistan from Taliban to a democratically elected government. Okay, democratically elected government. So considering the stability that the democratic government brought in Afghanistan, India made huge investments. Approximately $3 billion investment is there. So the first key objectives of the policy, that is India Afghanistan policy, is to safeguard this investment. Second is prevent Afghan soil from being used by anti-India group. Previously, as I told you, Taliban was Pakistan's clients prior to this. What do you mean by clients? That is, Pakistan has always had a deep state. That is, the ISI and the RB are always running Pakistan. And one of their policy against India is to bleed India by thousand cuts. What do you mean by this? It means use terror organizations, use terror attacks, and through this bleed India by thousand cuts. Each cut symbolizing a terrorist attacks. And who were the major contributor to these terror attacks? They were none other than Taliban, because all the terror organizations were being trained in Taliban. Taliban itself was a creation of USA and Pakistan to fight off USSR, to fight off Russia, and later it turned against USA itself because USA started bombing Afghanistan. They claimed the 2001 terror attack in the Twin Tower in New York was because of Taliban, or was because of Osama bin Laden, who belonged to Al Qaeda, who had relations to Taliban. So they started attacking Al Qaeda, and they started attacking Taliban as well. So initially Taliban was created by USA and Pakistan itself, and now they started biting Pakistan and USA. So this particular soil, or the Afghanistan soil, which was previously used by Pakistan to breed terror organizations, has to be taken care. That is one of the other major objectives. That is, okay, we are going to help Taliban, we are going to help Afghanistan, but make sure that your soil is not used by terror organizations against India. Okay, next, limit Pakistan's influence and test Taliban's autonomy. Previously, the Taliban's international relations, or every diplomatic relations of Taliban, were always in line with whatever the Pakistan said, whatever ISA used to say. Now we have to limit this Pakistan's influence, and we have to test how autonomous the Taliban really is. Next, hence, India has pursued a policy of coordination or conditional and gradual engagement. Okay. Next, recent engagements. In the recent engagements, the major event was Amir Khan Muttaqi's India visit and upgrading of India's Kabul mission to a full embassy mark expanded engagement. Taliban assured that Afghan territory won't be used for terrorism. That is what India was hoping for. And recognition debate. What is the recognition? For recognition, Taliban appear consolidated. No anti-Taliban front exists in Afghanistan, and China and Russia have already normalized the ties. So India can also recognize Taliban. If these two countries can recognize Taliban and they can focus on national interest, why cannot India? Why cannot India just recognize Taliban? But the against recognition, the conditions or the points against this recognition is that Taliban still remains repressive, ideologically rigid, and economically fragile. So recognizing Taliban will have negative implications on the stand of India internationally, India globally. Okay, India has always stood for freedom. India has always stood for democracy. But now recognizing Taliban goes against all the ideology that India previously stood for. Okay. Next, recognition would legitimize authoritarianism and reduce India's leverage. Okay. Next, fragile reality. What is this fragile reality? That is, Afghanistan's economy has shrunk by one third, and 23 million people need aid in Afghanistan. Women are barred from education and work, and governance remains Pashtun and male dominated, risking instability in a diverse nation. Okay, these Pashtun are the majority tribe in Afghanistan. They are ruling Afghanistan completely. As a result, whenever there is one community dominating in a country, obviously rest of the communities are going to bring a protest are going to protest against this move. So this particular stability is only for a namesake or only for a particular time period. So we cannot put all our bets on Taliban here. Next, terror networks. That is, despite the various denials from the Taliban, UN report confirms Taliban ties with Al Qaeda, LET, Jaish-e-Mohammed, and others. The Haqqani network remains influential, and only Islamic State Khorasan opposes Taliban's rule. Of all the terror organizations, only one terror organization opposes Afghanistan rule or the Taliban rule. Rest of the terror organizations, important like Al Qaeda, Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, and others, are in support of Taliban because they were once trained by Taliban itself. These links pose a regional security risk. What is the guarantee that in future these Al Qaeda, not the Al Qaeda, we do not have had problems with Al Qaeda, but this LET and JM are the repeated offenders in India. Lashkar-e-Taiba's 26/11 attack in Mumbai, Jaish-e-Mohammed's Pulwama attack, or all a reminder that there can be attack from these organizations anytime. So what is the guarantee that Taliban is going to stop these attacks to India? So that is also terror attacks are there. So these are some arguments that opposes India from having or giving special recognition to or strategic recognition to Afghanistan. So what should we do? The article argues that we should focus on strategic recommendation. That is, recognition would legitimize the Taliban and encourage others to follow the suit. India should instead engage without endorsement using aid and diplomacy to press for inclusivity and women's rights safeguarding the interest. Okay, while India maintains relation with Taliban, India should not go off its objectives. India should not go off its human values. That is, pressing Taliban for human rights. Okay, such as rights of women, their educational rights, their right to marry, and everything has to be provided. Okay, that is the editorial, very important from the international relations perspective. And the second one is about the vision of model youth Grama Sabhas, a very interesting topic, a very interesting article. That is why I'm covering this. What is this? The article highlights the importance of Grama Sabhas as the foundation of India's grassroots democracy and introduces the Model Youth Grama Sabhas (MOGS) initiative launched in 2025 to mark civic participation aspirational among the youth. The author argues that real democracy begins at the village level, and India's future depends on citizens who view governance as a shared civic duty and not merely the government's task. Okay, so here they are trying to make a distinction between the government and governance. Okay, normally the governance is government plus civic or civilians. Okay, that should be the ideal case, but what happens here is there is less governance and more government in Indian case. So in order to avoid this more government and less governance and bring more fruitful governance, the government had brought model youth Grama Sabhas, wherein the youth, the population of youth, the youth population of the India will be able to indulge themselves and learn about importance of governance. Okay, then as they say, the governance begins at the village level. Each youth should know of the conditions of their village and should strive to bring changes in the village. Next, Grama Sabha, the forgotten cornerstone. What is this? Article 243 of the Constitution empowers the Grama Sabha to deliberate on budgets, development, and the government priorities. So this Article 243A was included after the 73rd Constitution Amendment Act. Okay, despite being the bedrock of participatory democracy, it remains neglected in the public discourse and education. Civic education emphasizes Parliament and the United Nations, leaving out Panchayat Raj institutions invisible to students and with aspirations. Normally, what do we learn about? We learn more about Parliament, Lok Sabha, Vidhana Sabha, and for state assemblies, state legislative assemblies, state legislative councils, etc., etc., and also about United Nations charters, etc. But we forget to learn about our very basic identity, that is the panchayats and the urban local governments. So that has been neglected in India. Next, why the model youth Grama Sabha? Okay, why is that? Why was it necessary? That is to bridge the gap between classroom civics and lived democracy. Classroom civics is different and lived democracy is different. So normally what we learn in classrooms, we fail to implement in them in reality. We fail to implement them in governance. So to bridge this gap, that is what we learn in classroom and to implement in the reality, is the ideal between model youth governance, model youth Grama Sabhas. The Ministry of Panchayat launched the model youth Grama Sabha in 2025 in collaboration with Ministries of Education and Tribal Welfare. Very important. It can be a statement based question in the prelims. Grama Sabha or Model Youth Grama Sabha is initiative of Ministry of Panchayat, Ministry of Tribal Affairs and Ministry of Education. This initiative simulates real Grama Sabha sessions where students act as sarpanch, ward members and officials to debate budgets and plans. It is nothing but similar to what we used to do as youth parliament. Youth parliament. As a kid, many of you might have participated in youth parliaments, as where you were able to hold different positions in the parliament, such as prime minister, speaker, leader of opposition, etc., etc. So this is what they are trying to recreate with model youth Grama Sabhas. Okay, it converts abstract civics into practical experience, fostering awareness, leadership, and participatory values among the young citizens. So, what is implementation at reach? It will be implemented in different phases. In the phase one, over 1,000 schools across 28 states and union territories, including Jawahar Navodaya Vidyalaya, Ekalavya Model Residential Schools, and Jilla Parishad schools. Next, training network, that is 126 master trainers and over 1,200 trained teachers so far. Next, successful pilots were held in Uttar Pradesh and Rajasthan and demonstrated strong student engagement. And in the phase 2, aims to expand to all state-run schools nationwide. Okay, so aim is to bring awareness among the students that you are part of the governance. You are not just a spectator. Instead, you are part of the governance. Next, from simulation to transformation. The model with Grama Sabha encourages active citizenship akin to how the model United Nations fosters global awareness. It helps you understand rights, duties, and consensus building, nurturing future local as well as national leaders. So they should be made aware at the very beginning itself. Next, this model has the potential to transform civic education by making governance relatable and aspirational. Normally, what happens with the students and the governance is that students think the governance is part of the government. Students think the governance is done by the politicians. It is not related to them. But what this does is it makes that governance can be done by us also. It makes it more relatable and it makes it more aspirational. Okay. Next, towards Vikasit Bharat. That is, true development requires citizens who participate, not just the policies that govern. MYGS is a seedbed for democratic renewal, making participation a culture rather than a duty. When every child learns that their village meeting is as vital as the parliament, democracy becomes a lived reality. Okay, another important article. You can use these examples in your governance or essay or ethics paper. Okay. Now the third article is about GSAT 7R launch. What is this? Yesterday, that is on November 2nd, 2025, the ISRO successfully launched GSAT 7R, which is India's heaviest communication satellite, which was built indigenously and dedicated primarily to the Indian Navy, and it was launched from Satish Dhawan Space Center in Sharikota. What are the key facts? The launch vehicle for this mission was Launch Vehicle Mission Module 3, that is M5, or which was previously called as Mark 3, which is India's most powerful operational rocket, which is also called as India's Bahubali. And the satellite weight was around 4,400 kgs. India's heaviest communication satellite so far, and the orbit which it was included or transferred was geosynchronous transfer orbit. And the mission type is naval communication and maritime domain awareness. Next, the significance is it strengthens naval communications, uh, secure voice, data, video connectivity in the Indian Ocean region, very important considering the Indian Indo-Pacific region and the issue around Indo-Pacific region, and links ships, submarines, aircraft, maritime operation centers, enhances real-time situational awareness in the maritime operations, and also technological self-reliance, that is Atmanirbharata in technology, that is fully indigenously developed and built, reduces dependence on the foreign launchers for heavy satellites, reinforces India's space defense infrastructure. And then the satellite strategic implications is strengthens India's maritime awareness and security architecture, which is crucial amid the Indo-Pacific tensions. Then ISRO's capability leap, that is demonstrates Launch Vehicle Model 3's ability to routinely handle more than 4-ton satellite to GTO, that is geosynchronous organization. JTO or geosynchronous at geostationary organization, orbits are at the distance of 36,000 kilometers. So to launch 4 tons of satellite from the Earth to a distance of 436,000 kilometers is not a small feat. But ISRO has successfully demonstrated this again and again with the help of Launch Vehicle Model 3. It also supports Gaganyaan human spaceflight program, which is going to use Launch Vehicle Model 3 variants as a launch vehicle. About GSAT-7 series, GSAT-7, the original one was Rukmini. It was launched in 2013 for Navy, and the purpose was maritime communication. And GSAT-7A was launched in 2018 for Air Force for airborne communication, and GSAT-7R, that is CMS-03, in 2025 for Navy for advanced secure maritime communication. Okay, this is about the main points. Now moving on to the prelims pointers. So the first prelims pointer is about doctrine of severability or doctrine of separability. What is the context? Recently Supreme Court has clarified that the doctrine of severability can also apply to suits for specific performance, but only in the exceptional cases, allowing partial enforcement of contractual obligations where parts of the contract are valid and separable from the invalid ones. Okay, I will explain it. What is doctrine of severability? It is a constitutional principle that allows courts to strike down only the unconstitutional parts of the law while keeping the rest of the statute valid and enforceable. Normally, when the law is enforced by a government of India, the parliament, it will have provisions. These provisions will be divided into various sections. Section 1, subclause A, B, etc. Section B, C, section 2, section 3, etc. etc. And in these sections, if any one section is found to be against the fundamental right or is against the constitution, or if it is found unconstitutional, or if it is found malified, then if this can be separated from the rest of the sections, meaning removal of this particular section doesn't affect the rest of the sections, then only this section will be removed, and there is no need of striking down the whole law itself. There is no need of striking down the whole law itself. That is, if a particular part of the law can be separated or severable, then only remove that particular part of the law. No need of removing complete law. Okay. So, if the certain provisions of the law violate fundamental rights but can be separated from the valid parts, only the offending provisions are declared void and not the entire law. And what are the key features? That is, if the invalid part can be removed, then it will be removed. If it cannot be removed, then the complete law will be removed. That is what? If it is separable, remove the separable part only. If it is not separable, remove the complete provision or the complete law itself. If valid and invalid provisions are inseparable, then the entire act becomes a void. It ensures there is a balance between judicial review and legislative intent protecting the constitution while avoiding excessive judicial interference. The landmark cases previously in K. Gopalan versus State of Madras 1950, that is, only section 14 of the preventive detention was void and the rest of the act remained valid. In Mineral Mills versus Union of India case 1980, it struck down part of the 42nd Amendment Act, which was considered as a mini constitution. That is, section 4 and 55 were struck down, rest of the sections were kept itself as unconstitutional and upheld the rest. In Quixote Holo versus Jackie Hulu 1992, paragraph 7 of the 10th schedule was struck down, but the remaining anti-defection provisions were held. And again, in IRA single case, with respect to IT Act, Section 68 was struck down, rest of the IT Act was kept as it is. So the essence is, if the bad is separable from the good, only the bad is struck down. This doctrine ensures constitutional supremacy while preserving legislative intent and functionality of valid legal provisions. Next, Vaigai Dam. So we'll discuss about Vaigai Dam and Vaigai River. Why is it in relevance? The timely onset of the northeast retreat monsoon and the release of water from the Vaigai Dam have revived the paddy cultivation in the Madurai districts of Tamil Nadu. The key fact is, it is built on the Vaigai River near Andipatti in Thene district of Tamil Nadu. Built in 1959. Height is around 34 meters and capacity is around 6,143 million cubic feet. Purpose is for irrigation purposes in the Madurai and Dindigul districts, drinking water supply to Madurai and Adipatti, hydropower generation of 6 megawatt. The significance is lifeline for agriculture in southern Tamil Nadu's double crop regions, major source of livelihood for the farmers during the northeast monsoon season. Associated institutions or agriculture research station is near the dam, conducts research on cereals, pulses and crop improvement. Tourism, it features Little Brindavana, which is a landscaped garden on both sides of this particular dam. About Vaigai River, it is entirely within Tamil Nadu. It has a length of 258 kilometers and drainage area is around 7,741 square kilometers. Varasanadu and Megamala hills on the western Ghats is the origin of this particular river. Generally southeast, though through Pandanadu region. Confluence is, it drains into Bay of Bengal in Park Strait near the Pamban Bridge in Ramananthapuram district. Tributaries for this river are Surayaliru, Mullayaru, Varaganandi and Majaluru, Kottagudi, Upparu, etc. And hydrological cultural importance of this particular river is very important. It is interlinked between Periyar River. Periyar River is a river in Kerala. So that receives major inflow from Periyar River via tunnel through Western Ghats. The flood pattern generally calm, rarely causes floods. Cultural legacy, it is mentioned in the Tamil text such as Silappadikaran, Tiruvalluvar and Tirumurugappadai. And it is also very important considering the recent context about Keeladi excavation. I already made a video about Keeladi excavations. What is Keeladi excavations? How it is very important, how it changes the discourse of Indian history. So these Keeladi excavations were majorly found on the banks of Vaigai River. So there is a academic discourse happening that this particular Keeladi excavations and all the Vaigai River should together be called as Vaigai River civilization or Vaigai Valley civilizations, on similar to Indus Valley civilizations. So that is the cultural legacy of this Vaigai River. Next is about Bhavani Island. So Bhavani Island is a riverine island. The recent relevance is recurrent floods at the Prakasan barrage have disrupted tourism and transport on the Krishna River. The key facts is, it is situated on the Krishna River near Vijayawada in Andhra Pradesh, 133 acres, and which makes it one of India's largest riverine islands. But the largest riverine island in India is Majoli Island, which is made by Brahmaputra and Subansiri River. If this is Brahmaputra and if this is Subansiri, the confluence of these rivers has resulted in Majoli Island, which is the largest riverine island not just in India but in the whole world. About this particular island, it is covered in dense forest, ponds and rolling meadows, known for its scenic beauty and biodiversity. Tourism significance, it was once a serene natural habitat, now developed as a major ecotourism and leisure destinations by Andhra Pradesh tourism, popular for water sports and resorts. What you have to remember is, it is situated on the Krishna River. Okay, that is all that is necessary for the prelims. This is today's daily news analysis. If you like the video, then please hit the like button, comment on it and also share with your friends. And if you are new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon so that you don't miss any notification. With this, I will end the video. Jai Hind.